Welcome guys, welcome to Automation Campus. In this tutorial we'll be looking at one of the newest or the latest components of Selenium, that is Selenium WebDriver, right? So in this tutorial we're going to be setting up a system for Selenium WebDriver, and we'll be writing one simple test using Selenium WebDriver. But before actually moving on to those steps, let's discuss like what Selenium WebDriver actually is, right? And what features or what advantages it has over the Selenium RC, right? So guys, in Selenium RC, those of you who have seen my previous videos on Selenium RC, we used to start a server before writing our scripts, right? It was a mandatory step to initialize or start a Selenium server, right? So in case of WebDriver, we don't need to start any separate server, right? Now, because of the fact that we started Selenium server in Selenium RC, which actually inserts its own JavaScript code into the browser, made the automation execution a bit slower, right? Since we do not have to start any server in case of WebDriver, the execution is actually much faster in case of Selenium WebDriver, right? Plus, Selenium WebDriver provides some exciting methods, and its enriched library has some very exciting methods which actually helps any automation engineer to make its test much more robust and user friendly, right? So having said that, let's move on to the next slide and see. Let's see what else do we have. Okay, now just like the Selenium RC, it also supports various type of browser, right? It also supports different type of programming languages. I mean, you can program it using Java. I mean, just pick your favorite language and you can start your WebDriver scripting, right? Okay, and you can also run your scripts on any of the platform. You can develop your scripts using Windows, but if you want, you can run them on Linux. You can run them on Macintosh. It's up to you guys, right? Okay, so before we move on to the coding part, let's first visit the docs for Selenium WebDriver. For that, we'll go to seleniumhq.org, right? And then we'll go to the downloads tab. Okay, and now we'll go to the Java docs. You can see it's available here, right? So we have to find a keyword WebDriver. WebDriver. Okay, guys. So here it is. Just click on WebDriver. Just like the Selenium, uh, WebDriver is also an interface. I mean, those of you who has gone through that Selenium RC video, and that video we discussed like Selenium is an interface. Just like that, WebDriver is also an interface, right? And these are its implementing classes, right? You can see the implementing classes as Chrome driver, Firefox driver, HTML unit driver, Internet Explorer driver, right? So basically these classes are specific to browsers, right? And interface WebDriver is implementing all these classes, right? And you can also see a list of methods which are being provided to us by this interface, right? For example, you can see close, find elements, find elements by, right? get, which is used to navigate to a URL. I mean, all these different functions or methods are provided to us by this WebDriver interface, right? Okay, so let's move on, guys. Okay, just like we did in Selenium RC, we're gonna be needing few of these software and add-ons for Selenium WebDriver as well, right? So, so we should be having Firefox installed on our system, right? Then we need two add-ons. Just go to the google.com and type in download Firebug, right? Okay, so just click on the link. Basically, Firebug is an add-on to Firefox. So just click on this link. It's loading, right? And just simply click on add to Firefox. I'm not clicking on it since I'm already having like Firebug installed, so I'm not gonna do that. Once you add it to your Firefox, you're gonna see a bug like icon appearing over here, right? Okay, so the next add-on that we need is Firepath, right? Just click on Firepath, and in a similar way add it to Firefox just like you did for Firebug. But guys, just make sure that you have Firebug installed before installing this Firepath, because this Firepath actually installs over the or Firebug, right? So if you don't have Firebug on your system, it won't install, right? Okay, now the other component or the other software that we need is we have to download Eclipse, right? Just go on this link, download Eclipse, click on this link, right? Just click on Eclipse IDE for Java EE developers, then select the architecture of your Windows. Mine is Windows 32-bit. Okay, now you're gonna see a download pop-up coming up. Just save it to your system, right? I'm not gonna do that as I already have it, right? So once you'll have it, you're gonna see something like this, a rar file coming up. Just extract it, right? And then you'll have a folder like this. Just go into that folder and double click on Eclipse, right? Okay, let's move on. So guys, in our previous tutorials we have discussed that Selenium is not a tool. I mean, it's not like that you can install it onto your system, right? Basically Selenium is an API, or WebDriver 2 is an API, right? So in and when we talk of APIs are nothing but set of libraries which contains the definition of classes and methods, which helps us in interacting with a web application, right? If we have to perform a click operation, then the definition of click will be available in those APIs or libraries, right? So now, just like we did in the case of RC, we have to download the API or the jar files for Selenium WebDriver. In order to do that, just go to seleniumhq.org, right? Under that, go to the downloads tab. Okay, then go to this particular section, Selenium client and WebDriver language bindings, then pick your favorite language. For this tutorial we'll be doing it on Java, so I'll click on download. So you can see another pop-up coming up, right? Just download it and save it onto your system, right? Once you'll download it, you see a rar file like this, right? Extract it and then you'll have a folder like this, right? So how you can use this API into your project, right? We're just gonna discuss that. Okay, now go back to Eclipse. Let me create a new project for Selenium WebDriver. Click over this button, or you can go to the file, go to new, select project, right? Select Java project, click on next, just provide a name for this project. Let's say it's Selenium WebDriver, right? Okay, so guys, now we have to import or attach that API in our project. So in order to do that, what I'll do, I'll go to source src, I'll right click on it, right? Then I'll go to build path, okay? Then configure build path. Under that I'll go to libraries. Then I'll click on to this button, add external jars, right? Now I'll navigate to that path where I have downloaded those Selenium API or Selenium jars. So as you can see, I'm into the download section and here are these jars, okay? So I'll open it. I'll then select both of them, right? Just give me a second, guys. Okay, then again go to add external jars, then go to, we have already added these two. Now go to the libraries, then control A, and then O, right? So all of the jars that we downloaded we have attached in our project, right? And then just click on OK. So as you can see under the reference libraries, you can see all the jars that we downloaded for Selenium have been added. Okay. Okay, now as you know that in order to work in Java, we have to create a class, right? So we're gonna also do the same thing. We'll go to source, right click over it, and then we'll go to new, and then we'll select a class, right? So let me just give it the name. Let me just give it the name as module 1. Oops, module 1. I need a main, it's already checked, and just click on finish. Right. Let me just clear the unnecessary code. Right. So in order to instantiate my WebDriver object, I have to use the following statements. Right. My first statement for WebDriver is WebDriver. Right. Let me just give the object or the variable name as dr. Now guys, since I'll be using Firefox for my project or for this particular tutorial, I need to instantiate WebDriver interface with the object of Firefox, right? So I'll create an object for Firefox driver, right? So this particular statement has instantiated the WebDriver object with a Firefox driver object, right? Now it's actually giving me an error which says WebDriver cannot be resolved to a type and Firefox driver cannot be resolved to a type. So we know like how to resolve such type of error, right? We need to import these classes into our project. So just hover over this particular statement. Okay, it appeared and right. It's not coming. The driver. Oh, just a second, guys. D should be capital. Okay. So now if I mouse over, it will say import WebDriver. Just click on this link, and you can see one of the import statement got added automatically. Right? Here is the import statement. We'll do the same thing with Firefox driver. Just mouse over it. It will say import Firefox driver. Just click on import Firefox driver. Right? As you can see, the warning or the error has gone. Right. So guys, unlike the Selenium RC, we won't be starting any sort of server here. We'll be just writing our plain simple command to navigate to a URL. Right? Dr dot get, and in here we'll specify the URL. For example, if I want to go to, let's say, google.com, I'll type in the URL and that's it. And my next statement would be, let me just provide some timeout. How much? Let's say 5 seconds. Right? Okay, it says unhandle exception, right? So let me just surround it with the, okay. Now let me just specify how to close a browser. Let's say close. Right. So this is the only thing that we need in order to launch a browser and close it. Right. So unlike in the RC where we need to close three different variables, we have to stop the Selenium object, we have to stop the Selenium server, right? So unlike that, we just need this one statement, right? So let me just save it and run it. What's happening? It's coming. The system is too slow at this moment. Okay, now it has come up and it is navigated to google.com just like we specified, right? It's gonna wait for 5 seconds and after that it will close. Right. Okay, so this is the one test that we wrote and it got executed perfectly. Now if we look at this command dr.get, so basically dr.get is used to navigate to a particular URL, right? Just like dr.get, we have another command which is dr.navigate. So let me just comment out this particular line and I'll show you how this can be done using another statement. dr.navigate dot to, and in here we specify the URL. Let me just copy the URL from here. Right? Okay. So guys, if both of these commands do the same thing, then what is the difference between these two commands? Why do we have navigate and then why do we have dr.get? Okay, now as you can see, we use navigate and we have the same results with us, right? We'll wait for 5 seconds and okay, great. Right, so I was discussing, like, if we have the two different commands doing the same thing, then why do we need that, right? So guys, the basic difference here is that if we use dr.navigate, then it also offers some of the other features. For example, if you want to go to your previous page, or you want to, let's say, move on to a page forward, then you can use it using navigate. For example, if I type, as you can see, it is actually giving me several options: dr.navigate.back, .forward, right? So basically those things were not available with dr.get, but actually using dr.navigate I can use these functions as well, right? Okay, so this was about how you can access a particular application or the URL. Now let's do another test, right? Like we did in Selenium RC. Let me just go to the gmail.com and then let's see how we can log into the Gmail using Selenium WebDriver, right? Okay, so guys, just like what we what we did in Selenium RC, the syntax to do that in WebDriver is completely different. Okay, now I need to create a variable name, variable with class, let's say web element, and let me just give it name as web element, le. Okay, it's actually giving me an error, so I have to import it just like I did for WebDriver and Firefox driver. Here it got added, as you can see, right? Okay, so now in order to interact with an app element, what I'll do, I'll store it into the variable whose type is of web element. Okay, now to get an element, I'll type dr dot, sorry, dr dot find element by dot xpath, right? And then I'll give the xpath of that particular edit box, right? Okay, just let me give you a quick review how we fetch XPath. Just click on this Firebug icon, right? Click on Firebug, then you have something like this, a panel appearing up, right? Just, and then make sure you are under the Firepath tab, as you have multiple tabs over here like HTML, CSS. Just make sure that you are on Firepath tab, right? Then click over this Inspect Element button, and then click on the element that you want to inspect. I want to inspect this particular edit box for the email input. I'll click on it, and as you can see, I have the XPath available here, right? Just copy the XPath and leave that dot, right? As you can see, there's a dot. I am not copying that dot, and specify over here, right? So let me just put a semicolon. Okay, now if I type le dot, it will give me like various methods. Since web le is a type of web element, so I can perform all those functions that can be done on a web element, right? So in our case, the web element that we are trying to access is basically an input box, right? So what I need to do, I have to type in it, right? So In Selenium WebDriver, in order to type in something, we use a command or a method called send keys, right? Now I specify what I need to type. I'll do that just like this: abc@gmail.com, right? Okay, now I again do the same thing: dr dot find element by dot xpath, right? So let me just fetch the xpath for that password edit box. As you can see, we have two edit box, one for email and other one for the password. So let me just get the xpath for this, right? Okay, so as you can see, here is the xpath. I'll copy it over here, right? Now I'll again use the same command, which is the send keys. I'll type in some random data. Let's say this is my password. Okay, right? Now the next step is to actually get the xpath for that sign in button. I'll again type in the same thing: dir.find element by dot xpath. Then I'll go to the main page of the application. I'll again click on inspect element button. Then I click on to the button whose XPath I need, right? As you can see, I have the XPath with me now. Okay, let me just copy it, right? Now this is a button. So what operation I want to do with this? Of I won't be entering any sort of values in it, so I won't use send keys. But this is a button, so I need to click over it. For that, I'll type le dot click, right? Okay, right, guys. So this is, I mean, let's go through this statement one by one. What we have done, we have navigated to Gmail. Okay, we have navigated to gmail.com. Then we created a variable of the type web element, right? Now using this statement dir.find element, using the xpath, we have actually fetched an element and stored into this variable, right? Now since we want to input text, we have used the operation send keys, right, and specified what we want to enter here, right? So in the same way we have done it for the password edit box, and the same way we have done it for the sign in button. So let me just run this test so that you can see what is actually happening. My system is really slow at this particular time. Okay, browser has been launched and it is navigating to the Gmail, right? Okay, enter the values and click on sign in, right? Since it wasn't a valid credentials, it basically failed. And right after 5 seconds it closed the browser, right? So basically guys, these are the things that we need to keep in mind, like how we need to fetch an element, right? How, what are the basic operations? For example, for an input box we use the send keys operation, right? For a click for button we use the click operation, right? So I mean, using these sort of methods and using these sort of functions, we can actually interact with all different type of web elements, right? Okay, now let's try one more thing. As you can see, that windows that was appearing for the Gmail was not maximized. So how we can do that? Okay, let me just put in an enter. To do that, we'll type dr dot manage dot window dot maximize, right? Let me just save it and let me just run it again. Okay, so it has started. It is navigating to Gmail, right? As you can see, it has maximized. It entered the values, clicked on sign in, and now it's waiting for 5 seconds. Right. Right. So guys, for this tutorial, in this tutorial, we saw like how we can set up Selenium WebDriver on a system, what different type of jars we need, and what all different syntax that WebDriver brought in, right? So in other tutorial or in the next tutorial, we will see how we can play or how we can interact with different type of web elements, right? So thanks for watching this video, guys. Thanks a lot. Till then, bye bye.